So last season, we left audiences hanging off a cliff by their fingernails. Um, there was a gunshot in Michaela's apartment that was the result of a manly struggle between Jared and Zeke. We don't know who was hit, but somebody was. Grace and Ben learned that there is a new life on its way, but they don't know who the daddy is. So the biggest revelation of the season finale is what will come to be known as the death date. So basically, the family stone discovers through Griffin, who was, to remind viewers, the kind of baddie murderer slash bank robber who died to the minute exactly as long or as long as he had been underwater is how much longer he lived, to the very minute. So the family stone, through all the clues and callings that they've been getting over the season, pieces it all together that they too are going to expire exactly as long as the plane was gone. Grace has had a pretty busy 5.5 years. She lost her son and her husband, who was the love of her life. Josh and I made up this mythology of how we got together, that it was at a drunken college party. so, been together since we were kids, and then found herself a single mom and a widow with a daughter who was, suffering PTSD from the loss of her twin and her father, and dealing with that. And, she also, Olive, kind of had a lot of emotional turmoil in those years that Ben and Cal were gone. And then she meets someone, and he's good with her daughter, and he helps bring her daughter through her depression. And they're kind of making a new little happy family, the three of them. And then the plane lands again, and her son is back, and also her first love is back. And so there's that kind of, she knows what she is supposed to do. And it's not that she had stopped loving Ben, but, she had let him go because she thought he was dead. So I think that was really hard for her emotionally, to kind of let go of someone else that she hadn't stopped loving and go back to this first person, and to also everything that she and Olive had been through in those years that Ben hadn't been a part of and didn't have any clue of, and, how to reconcile that. And Olive and Ben also have a lot of kind of interesting sort of back and forth and trying to find each other again. And then at the end of the season, she finds out she's pregnant, and the fetus is just enough old that it could be either Danny's baby or Ben's baby. And this is after she's sort of come to, to peace with the whole thing, and decided yes, it's going to be the family and we're going to be committed. And she's in on the callings and everything, which was also the complicating factor in their relationship, that in the beginning, Ben wasn't sharing with Grace these callings that he was having. And so from her perspective, he was just disappearing all the time and coming back with cuts in his face, and bringing Cal home with cuts in his face because they've been in some explosion. And she's just like, what is happening? You are endangering my children. You need to go. So they come through all of that only to learn that they may have this other obstacle of, another parent in the mix. So the death date, or the idea that the passengers have only as much time as they were gone left to live, I think is this very interesting sort of dilemma for the characters, because on the one hand, they want to find a way to stop it. They want to find a way to solve it. They were just reunited. Well, at least for the people who were not on the flight, they just got these people back, who they had grieved and lost and mourned all these years. And then also the fact that there's a new baby coming, that's so sad to think you won't even see this baby's 5th birthday, So I think nobody wants to just lay down and take it. So it's a big driving force between the second. It's a big driving force in the second season is how to solve the death date, how to escape it, how to outrun the Grim Reaper kind of thing. But it's an interesting dilemma because you kind of think like, but what if they do all that? And when you see the second season, a lot of that's really, the characters are really obsessed with fighting this, and they're not exactly, if they can't beat it, they're not exactly enjoying their last 5.5 years. You know, they're not living them to the fullest. So that's the other thing, that it's like, what if we're doing all this and it's for naught, and we've wasted this precious little time that we have left, which I think is the interesting dilemma of it. And, you know, you can kind of ask yourself what you would do if you were in the same, position. The interesting thing about it is that it is a very, you know, this show has kind of a sci-fi element to it, and it is a very sci-fi thing that there's this expiration date when all the passengers are going to die, and it's exactly the amount of time that they were gone. But it's also kind of very relatable. Like if we like people who are terminally ill or, you know, diagnosed with something, it's that very same question that do I spend all this remaining time that I have left trying to fight this sickness and trying to get better and or do we, and often, you know, you're spending that time in sickness because your chemo or whatever you're doing is making you feel sicker, or do we try and just, you know, like be with one another and like live out our days and tick off our bucket list and do nice things and kind of accept it. And I think that's a similar dilemma that the characters on this fictional show in this kind of sci-fi universe are coming to terms with. And it creates a lot of they're still continuing to have callings. And so part of it is thinking like, maybe these callings are going to be, if we solve this one, if we solve the next one, if we solve the one after that, maybe that will lead us to an answer of how we can escape this. And so there's a lot of drama in the callings. The callings are kind of becoming ramped up, and they're sort of more and more dramatic and more involved, and you know, sometimes scarier. So that's kind of, I think that's really, I would say the first season was very much dealing with the emotional dramas of these people coming back and dealing with what they'd left behind and dealing with everything that had happened in the time that they'd been gone, and the people who were left behind dealing with their return. And it was very much about that and relationships and how that's all going to work out. And the second season is very much about the death date and trying to figure it out, trying to solve it, trying to escape it. So the callings that happen in season 2 are starting to reveal, they're starting to like unlock little tiny doors that lead down different paths. And actually one of our new characters, who was one of the passengers, a young man called TJ. So one of the new characters, TJ, who is a young man who was on Flight 28 that we did not meet in season 1, who is the very handsome and lovely Garrett Waring, discovers this journal. I don't want to say too much, but it's very old, and it has some clues, and it speaks of some very parallel seeming experiences that some people had many, 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 many years ago. So being back on Manifest for season 2 is obviously thrilling. Like, it, you know, to do the pilot was a thrill. And then when the pilot got picked up was wonderful. And then we did the first season and we all came together, and like, also, you know, it's great to be working as an actor. It's great to be working. It's great to be working on a show that people like. What's really special and great is to be working with people that you like, which doesn't always happen. But on this show, everyone is just great, like just lovely, awesome people who love this story, love telling it. Our showrunner and creator, Jeff Rake, is I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. He's just a beautiful human being, and he's written this beautiful story for us to tell, and it continues to surprise us. Like, that's the other thing, is it's exciting to get the new scripts. It's exciting to see what's going to happen. There's always some, like, you know, things are revealed in just like interesting and unexpected ways. And I think, you know, and then it's really nice to know that people watching it like it too. Like, it's not just us. I've definitely been on those shows where like just the people making it are like, this is great, but then nobody watches it, and that's a bummer. But people love this show, and we're back for season 2 and hopefully for seasons to come. And that's just, I count myself very lucky. In season 2, you will be surprised, you will be thrilled, you will be moved to maybe a bit of Kleenex use. It's really got it all. Like, if you liked season 1, season 2 is just like up a level. Like, they really delivered. I doubt that anyone will be disappointed with season 2. It is twists and turns and turbulence.